Welcome to Visibility by Design podcast with your host, Juliette Stapleton. In this show, I want to help you combine your marketing strategies and your human design potential so you can show up, stand out, and attract your perfect clients with confidence and ease. Are you ready? Enjoy the show.
I am so excited for this interview and excited to share with you because as an entrepreneur or a business owner, marketing and selling can feel really daunting at times. There are so many different strategies and courses, books, and approaches to selling that it can often feel overwhelming on figuring out the best way to market and sell your services. And I am so excited to dive into today's conversation to talk about marketing and selling by understanding your strengths and how to work with your body and not against your body. So that way you can not only have an abundant mindset going into your next launch or selling your services, but also have an epic strategy behind it that is customized to your personality. I invited Juliette Stapleton to join me today because her zone of genius is teaching human design and how to bring that into your business. So let me tell you a little bit about Juliette, and then we're going to dive into the conversation. She is an online visibility strategist. She mentors coaches and experts using over 22 years of her experience with online visibility and her passion for human design to realign your marketing with your authentic self. She helps coaches find their authentic brand voice, build a strong position as an authority in their niche, and attract perfectly aligned clients and opportunities. Juliette is internationally recognized for her direct, non-traditional marketing methods that focus on personal self-recognition and self-expression as the key to ideal client attraction. Juliette is also a seasoned podcast host, a passionate speaker, and a writer featured in Forbes, talking about staying visible in uncertain times. You can find her guest articles in Entrepreneur, Addicted to Success, and multiple other major online publications. Welcome, Juliette. I am so excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Risa. And I'm so excited to be here and share a little bit of what has changed my life and business completely and maybe enlighten you a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I think this is such an important topic for entrepreneurs, business owner, because I think we're always constantly trying to refine our marketing and selling. And what I love so much about how you approach marketing and selling is you understand the person first behind the business, their energetics, how they communicate, understanding their zone of genius, and then from that building a strategy around them. And it's such a refreshing and different approach that I have seen that is not often talked about.
It's very interesting to, from the position of human design, we're going to talk about human design today, but from the position of human design, only a small amount of people are actually here to tell other people what to do, to really, truly focus on the other. The rest, we always focus on within ourselves. Mm-hmm. There's something to do, either we are learning about our own foundations or maybe our connection to the other or how we can be a role model to the other. But it's not about directly talking to another person, right? It's what I call selfish marketing. And this is what one of the big aha moments for me. And I have over 22 years of online visibility building experience for different brands, for myself, for projects and businesses. And one thing that I noticed is that when you don't have a solid footing in your own self, everything is affected. Your confidence is affected. How you are trying too hard is affected, and you exude this desperate energy that actually is palpable by your audiences. And so, it's just repelling. It's not attracting, but it's when you are fully confident within yourself because you just feel like what you're doing is important to you. How you express yourself is the way that's natural to you. You're not trying to fit into somebody else's idea of what you should be as an entrepreneur or as a coach or an expert. Then the marketing, it stops being this scary thing. Mm-hmm. You know how many people say, I hate marketing. Marketing is nothing. Marketing is just a bunch of activities. You hate marketing because you're choosing activities based on what you think you should be doing versus what makes you feel like you're expressing something really important that just can't be held within, and you want to say it. And when you give yourself permission to really lean into that, and what I love about human design is that it actually shows you where that natural thing is, because natural for us, you see, it's kind of funny. We think that something good needs a lot of effort, right? But what's natural, when you're a genius at something, that's super easy. And we tend to just brush off all our talents and gifts and not pay attention to them and just focus on something that, will be developed over time with a lot of repetition. Now, some people have that, like I have a channel in my human design channel of talent. That is the talent that is built over repetition. So that's okay. Some people have that, right? But majority of people don't pay attention to what's very, very natural to them. And that's why I say I have non-traditional marketing approach. I sometimes call it selfish marketing, because it's focused on self. And then everything else, no matter how consistent or inconsistent you are, and this is where the magic starts, you exude the energy of abundance and attraction, and people come and find you. So it's essentially an attraction marketing. I'm essentially an attraction marketing ambassador. But I find that this is the most fulfilling one, because you just don't feel like you're bending backwards with the begging hand out there. Please work with me. Please hire me. Please, buy my courses or my services. That's not a good energy to be showing up with. Yeah. So that's what I do.
Oh, I love that, because, and I know I have been guilty of this in the past, is when I needed clients. And that was how my marketing and my selling was received. It was from that place of need, which is a very low frequency, versus, and you touched on, is the higher frequency of when you're in that place of abundance and alignment. It doesn't matter what you put out. People feel that and they are attracted to that. And I think that is, I'm so excited to dive into this with you, because this is, I think, where so many people, especially who run soul-led businesses, are wanting to go into. And sometimes it's a little unnerving, or it's like, I don't know where to get started.
Exactly. And we're forgetting one very important thing, is that we're energetically connected to everything and everyone in this world, right? And so when you are not being yourself, people sense that this is not authentic. So the journey is to find you. It's not about finding clients. It's about finding yourself. And that connection, that net that you're constantly, you're within this net. And as you start shining your light, all the web around you starts lighting up, right? All the people, we call them fractals in human design. These are the people that just get pulled into your life. It's beautiful vision, it's a beautiful image to think about. And I think it's very empowering as well. So that's how we think about marketing from now on.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. So before we really dive into the meaty part of our conversation, can you tell people a little bit about human design, or from your perspective, what it actually is and how people can view human design?
I love this. Human design is a very relatively new concept, but it's based on very, very ancient wisdoms. A part of it has to do with astrology. Part of it has to do with Chinese Book of Wisdom, the 64 hexagrams. There is a lot of other things that's combining it, but I'm just going to distill it for you, because human design doesn't have a shallow end. I can't just in 5 minutes explain to you what it is. It is a map of your energies flow in your body. And when you have that map, depending on your type, there is also a certain strategy in life. How can you be in life, right? And how can you make decisions in life that are much more aligned, that are not meeting resistance all the time? So how can you live in a more aligned way and make decisions in a way that even if you're making mistakes, those are the mistakes you need to make to learn something and to grow. Because, we have to be very realistic. Life is not only, roses and happiness, right? We will all want that. But really, truly, life is an experience that comes with an array of different lessons and emotions and feelings that we learn karmically, and then we learn these lessons. So human design gives us how the most important things, how to be in life. I'll give you some examples that you will understand what I mean by that, and also how to make aligned decisions. So there are certain things depending on, some people, for example, have emotionally defined, say, center, which means that they live in constantly emotional waves. They're experiencing ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, and they think it's normal because that's how their life is, right? Mm-hmm. But other people are complete flatliners. They don't have these waves, and they can maybe experience another person's emotional wave and react and take it in and multiply this, and then think that maybe that's theirs as well, and get very confused. When we have these kind of emotional waves, we also need to think about, is being spontaneous logic when you are so emotional, or do you need some sort of clarity? If you need to make a very, very important decision and you are emotionally defined, you have an emotional authority, we call that in human design, where, if you're making decisions spontaneously, where are you in your emotional wave? Maybe you're on the top where the world seems so amazing and everything is so great, and then by the end of that same day, you might feel like, oh my God, I hate everyone. I'm angry with the world. My sister is an emotionally defined generator. She says, I'm angry with the world today. And then you're going to regret saying yes to something. So there's a strategy for you or for your authority how to make aligned decisions. Wait a little bit. Wait through the emotional curve. And then when you have emotional clarity, you can say yes. So if you are emotionally defined, it is really, really good for you to just say, okay, I need time to think about it. Mm-hmm. I need to look at the restaurant menu 50 times, and it's okay for me. It's healthy for me to do that, because as I look at every of these menu items, I'm experiencing it in a way. I'm going through this mini, waves, and I see what I want, what I don't want, and I have to kind of go back and forth. And it's the same in business in a way. So if you're an emotionally defined person and you're on the discovery call, maybe with a coach that you really, really like, but the coach is putting pressure on you to buy into their services right now, there and then. If you know that you should not be making spontaneous decisions, imagine the power it gives you to say, no, I need to think about it. I know I appreciate all the discounts and all the heavy selling, but I need time to think about it. I need to think about it if it's right or wrong for me. And then after, maybe the next day, if they still feel hell yes, or if they still feel like this is something that they want to do, they're free to do that. But they gave themselves this chance to go through their emotional ups and downs. Mm. On the other side, some people are born to make spontaneous decisions. There are people who, for example, you're a generators, and if you're a sacral, not an emotional generator, so you have this like a GPS in your body that literally responds hell yeah or to everything around you at every minute of your day. Now, you might not be trained to or even aware of it. So you might say, well, I don't know, I don't know if I experience this. But when you start paying attention, like with everything, we might be unaware and we don't notice this. But then when you start paying attention, you will see that all the time your body is kind of saying, hey, and if you don't listen to these little mumbling sounds in your body, or some people describe them as bubbles or butterflies. If you don't listen to them and you do things, you go into things because you're just excited, or maybe somebody is standing in your aura and their chemistry is affecting you, right? So you don't have this space to really listen to your body. Again, you can make a wrong decision. How can you use human design to make the aligned decision? Step outside, go, pretend you need to go to the toilet. I don't know. Yeah. Step outside, be alone, away from other people's aura, give yourself a couple of minutes, tune in, feel your body. Your body will always tell you the correct for you decision. And so then the next element comes with these strategies and how to make decisions, is that you need to learn to trust. You need to learn to trust, right? And that's the scariest part in a way. Mm-hmm. So human design, I think I did a really bad job, actually, now thinking back, talking about what human design is. But I think that human design, it's like a personality profiling system. So if you're a personality test junkie, I am totally, yep. You will love this. You will love this, especially if you find the ways, or maybe you will, come to me to explain to you clearly. and without dropping you into a deep end, right? How you can practically use this information, how can you take these traits, you will see that with a little bit of trust, that can be so beneficial. And I will tell you later my story, for example, using human design in my business, which is now is year and a half as I totally experiment in my business with, with my type, with my authority. And it's life-changing. Then you start getting this evidence that this works. And that's why I'm so excited about it. That's why I'm so excited to spread the word.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you explain that. It's a way to honor our body and understand ourselves. I know for me as a generator, learning about my own type is like, I then practiced and I had people ask me yes or no questions and I learned to listen. It was a skill that I learned, but because of my human design, I was able to hone in much faster to that. And you're right. It's like, once you learn that and once you trust, it can completely change your life. Like every decision I make, I ask a yes or no question and I get a very clear yes or no response.
Exactly. And it's also a natural skill to you. It's, for example, we know that humans can walk, but children don't just walk. It takes time, right? And it takes so much error and falling. And, it takes actually over a year, sometimes a year and a half to really, really walk confidently, right? So that's how we approach this awareness too. It's something that with more awareness, you will start recognizing it. And also we have to remember, like with everything, that even though we always, we aspire to be fully aligned with everything. But with marketing and sales and businesses, and we have to be realists because this is a material world kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Because if somebody is aligned, they are running around in the meadow with the flowers in their hair. They don't need to be more. They are happy within who they are. They don't need to have a business. They don't need to make money. They don't need all that. This is all comes from the material plane that we live in. So we have to be very realistic and say, okay, the human life is in the material plane. So we will always have this like a journey into alignment and a little bit out, like transcending, this border. And it's okay because that's what human life is. And that makes it very, very, I think, freeing. It's freeing because it gives you the understanding that you don't have to be perfect. You know how we always want to be like, we always want to do a good job at this. So you don't need to stress if you made a not aligned decision. But over time, you will realize that you naturally start making decisions based on your body response. And that's very empowering.
Oh, yes. Oh, that is so empowering. And I know for me, the first time that I plugged in my information, because I'm also a personality test junkie, and I got my design back and it looked very overwhelming. It was like, I don't even know where to start. So I know there can be a lot of information and it can feel overwhelming. From your perspective, how much of the human design, details is actually needed to start applying it for someone who wants to bring that into their marketing or selling in their business?
It's such a great question because our minds, our biggest enemies in this world, right? The mind always gets seduced by knowledge. So everything that we encounter, and it's not just human design, think about any kind of new marketing strategy or something else. The mind is like, you need to know everything about this. I am not ready yet to show up. I have to take these 5 courses I bought last year and I haven't opened yet. When I do that, then I will. So the mind is a saboteur. It always wants you to learn more. With human design, it's so simple. If you know your energy type, and you know the strategy for that energy type. So you're a generator. You need to wait until you see something to respond to where your body can, and in a way you can't even force it. Yes, you can ask, there's tricks. You can ask somebody, please ask me a yes or no question. But if there's no one around, you will see or hear something and your body responds. Listen to those things. This is the universe is there literally holding your hand and like nudging you. and in your body there is this thing that goes, the lamp that goes on, when there's good things. So you have that in you already. Following that strategy activates, and also understanding how to make decisions, as I described already. But it activates all the goodness that you have. It raises the frequencies of all the gates and the channels and the, planetary influence. Everything becomes aligned if you follow your strategy and authority. Mm-hmm. If you try and learn so much, and human design, it really is, it's not even that it doesn't have a shallow end. It's like you're jumping from a tall cliff into an ocean. There is just literally so much of everything, but it's only important if you want to be a human design analyst. It's absolutely irrelevant to you if you are not going to be a professional in this industry. All you need to master is this strategy for your type. Understand your type. That's where the awareness, so I'm a projector. It's a different type. My strategy is wait to be invited. Think about how scary that is. So I have to sit here and wait until I'm invited. How's it going to happen? But the truth is that the biggest events in my life, if I look back, they always were from somebody inviting me and not from me initiating that. In my romantic life, for example, I was always someone who was trying to get the guy. I was looking for, my other half. I did find him, but I was looking for my other half, and I was imposing myself. I was stalking people, literally. It was insane. It's insane to look back. And then when I met my husband, he was not the type that I would go for, right? And yet he was the one. He was like, no, Juliette, you might not like me, but you will love me. I will marry you. And he was the one, he basically invited me into these relationships and pursued me. And it turned to be, the novel-worthy love story of our lives. And it's amazing. And unfortunately, I just lost him this year. He had cancer and he passed away. And I'm just mentioning this here because of this waiting for invitation strategy. So I'm right now finding myself and my mind thinking, oh my God, how am I going to have another companion in life? What's going to happen? Because in it has to do with human design, and not everyone needs a companion, but my chart shows clearly I have a split there that I'm looking for the other half in relationships. And I find myself with these thoughts and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is crazy because now I have to wait until I'm invited again. And this is something that it can be very unnerving, these strategies that we have. But when you really understand why these strategies created for your type, it has to do with how your aura is. It has to do with how you interact with the others. This is what I love about human design. It explains why we interact with other people in certain ways. And with some people, this connection becomes really, beneficial. And sometimes with other situations, you get a real pushback. So what did you do there? And for a projector like me, for example, projector has a very, very laser focus aura that's focused on the other person, especially on their kind of direction center, right? It's not something that is conscious. It's pure mechanics of the energy. We don't have control over that. It just happens. So when when I see that somebody can do something differently, and I am so good at strategizing, efficiency, this is a projector's gifts, and I'm very good at being a guide. And say I'm coming up, say I see that's something you can do better with this interview. And then I start telling you, without you inviting me and my opinion, you're not going to be open to this. You're going to immediately feel like with that heavy laser sharp focused energy, I am overwhelming. And so you're going to push me back. And then I'm going to start feeling bitter. How unfair, but I know I can help you, right? And then we start cooking in this, which is a feeling of misalignment for projectors, the bitterness and resentment, but it happened because you didn't wait for the invitation, and you didn't wait because you don't understand how mechanics of your energy works. And therefore you don't have the awareness of where you just need to, wait until you're invited into this. How do you get invitations is a completely different story. And it's actually so easy. And it's very fulfilling for someone who is a projector, because we're like lighthouses. We have these things that we see. Create content, show up, be visible, get out there, So if you want to be invited, create opportunities to be invited. And it's just really, it's simple actually, but it takes time to get your head around these things. So really to summarize, you need to know only the top layers. I am adding one more layer in terms of online visibility. It's your profile. There is, the main energies in our charts are the energy of the sun. This is the closest, star to us, right? So the energy of the sun and the earth, they have a line, what we call a line. There's a number after this planetary, whatever gate they're in your chart. And these numbers are actually kind of like the costumes that we wear. One is a conscious one, and then the second one is what's more obvious to other people, but it's a design of our body. It's just like a personality, a role that our body plays. And other people see it more clearly. We see it when we have more awareness about it. So what we call it a human design profile. Human design profile is such an amazing key for your brand voice. And so then for marketing users, I always say, understand your personality from human design point of view, because it's not about your conscious control or how you can manipulate this. This is much more about, this is mechanically what happens, whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, it's just going to happen, right? So how can you take advantage of that awareness? How can you behave in a certain way? And how can you allow yourself to express yourself in a way that's more natural for this kind of energy? We're both here 1-3s, right? Mm-hmm. You're a 1-3 generator. I'm a 1-3 projector. 1-3 lower triagram. If you imagine 6 lines, the Chinese book of wisdom hexagrams, we're in the lower triagrams. Our karma and everything is focused on within. We're here to learn things, to learn what is solid, what is secure in life. We're here driven by the fear of not knowing what we need to know. So we will jump into these rabbit holes. And then we have this line 3, which is a very material world line, which is like, let's test it now. Let's try it again and let's try it again. And so, how do you use that in your marketing? If you're an introspective person who is all about their own intellectual processes and research and everything, talk about yourself. This is something that in no marketing book they will say, talk about yourself. Talk about yourself. You are here to talk about these unique perspectives, and other people, by just listening to you, talking about yourself, your personal stories, your observations, they will get so many aha moments. There's shifts. I work with people, with clients, and sometimes I think I just talked about myself the whole hour that we were on the call. And a person says, my life has changed. I just had a huge breakthrough. And this is how human design gives you an indication, like for your type of energy, if you lean into it, because it's natural to you anyway. Yeah. You talk about yourself anyway a lot. Yep. So do more of this. Allow yourself to test, allow yourself, knowing that body line that is there anyway. Leaning into it unlocks the potential of the first line, unlocks the beauty of everything. So, do things in a little way, in a more empowered way, and forget about the traditional marketing advice. Because as I mentioned, it's really, really good for line 5 people. I'm just going to say it out there straight away, but it's actually really just for that kind of type of people. And we have 6 lines. We have so many other, buts and ifs and wait for invitation and everything. So we need to find our own system. The good news is that in marketing and sales, right? I started with this whole approach, focus on yourself, but there's no one way to get to success. In fact, there is 7 billion ways to achieve success. Everyone has their own unique journey. So when we are trying to find what works for us, it's literally what works for me, what works for you, and they will not be the same. And this is where there's a problem with, taking a course where somebody gives you a step-by-step process. It might not work, but you can still take it, you can learn it and take what works for you and disregard the rest.
Yes. I love that. Is your path is never going to look like anyone else's path. And I think as entrepreneurs, it takes a little while to really learn that message. But once you do it, it's like, oh, yeah, this is my journey and it's not going to look like anyone else's journey. So how can someone maybe choose a more aligned strategy when they're trying to establish either a consistent, messaging, marketing strategy, or positioning themselves as an authority on maybe whatever platform they're currently using for marketing?
I think that the answer to consistency is definitely in your human design energy type. So, for example, I mentioned I'm a projector. Projectors are what we call a non-energy type because we don't have a sacral center defined. The sacral center, it's like a center that is connected to the life force. You're a generator, you have that defined center, and if you liken it to a world ocean. So there is water underneath the surface of Earth everywhere, right? Rivers and ocean, not rivers, but seas, oceans, they have access to that world ocean. That's in a way what generators and manifesting generators have. They have access, consistent access to that water. So they don't run out of energy. There is that doesn't mean that you don't get tired and you don't get frustrated. But the reason is that if you're focused on things that light you up, you will never be tired. You will go to bed exhausted. You wake up in the morning full of energy. Let's do it again, right? Because again, it's all about making aligned decisions. A projector like me, a manifestor, reflector, we don't have the sacral defined. So we just simply cannot work like, I don't want to say energizer bunnies because that's kind of a little bit offensive, and it's not like generators and manifestor generators really are. It's not true. But we can't, for example, I can't go to bed exhausted, wake up next morning, and I know even if I'm fully focused on something that lights me up and everything, I can guarantee that I have energy. No, I will have this creative burst of energy, maybe a day, maybe 2 days, maybe sometimes a week if I'm lucky. And then there will be a period of completely creatively nothing to give. Mm-hmm. So as for my marketing, for my online visibility, for my business, the huge learning curve was for me to find the way to work with these creative, how would it say,
ebbs
rhythms?
And flows, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. And to know to wait, to know not to push. So here's some practical things that I've learned. For example, I never create content for the sake of creating content out of the fear that I am not consistent, because it's not energetically backed. It's empty words. It's just noise. Mm-hmm. And it also has that repelling energy because your intention creating this was maybe to get clients or to be visible, but it wasn't actually an intention to express yourself, express a point that's really important to you, that lights you up or draws you, to research. So there is no backing. And this is something that I stopped doing, even though I was super consistent. I was posting every day for many years. I actually was, before my pivot into human design, I was a Facebook marketing specialist, personal profile, personal branding, content, friend requests sent. It's so misaligned with my strategy as a projector. And you know what? The results in my business, it was like broken tap. I felt like I got clients that was lucky. There was never a predictable way to get clients. And now there is. And even when I started running my business as a projector and really understanding that my energy is not always there. So what's the point of creating content and expressing myself when I just have nothing to give? So how can I fill that? And automation is perfect, because when we are creative, we can do so much. It's not, so for example, a generator can steadily achieve, their goals with consistent something, right? When they're aligned and everything, there's a lot of buts. But a projector, even if they're aligned, they can't. So when you're creative, you do so much. Repurpose. Mm-hmm. If you wrote a really good article or for your blog, for example, then when you don't have energy, that's what you can do. You can start creating little small pieces, the post to promote this article, or just like fit it all into some sort of automation tool. I use a specific automation tool, Social Beat, that I love for that. And so that takes care of that, what we call consistent visibility. So you are seen in the feeds, but it brings people, first of all, to where there is real deep content. I'm really against, even though I started with Facebook so many years, I used Facebook, but you can't express depth on social media because there's just not enough characters. Yeah. Facebook gives us more. That's why I'm there, because I go long. Facebook gives us more space, but really you can't go very, very deep.
Yeah.
And therefore, you want to have a hub somewhere where people can come in, and then, instead of competing with a cute puppy or something else that comes into feed, because that's what happens, or on YouTube, we're watching a video on YouTube and there is something in the sidebar, I don't know, SNL or some funny dogs again or something like that. The brain straight away goes there because the brain doesn't want to burn calories thinking and consuming this. It just wants to do nothing. And so if you're bringing people into your safe website where you have your articles and everything, it's like your own castle, your own platform, then if you decide to distract them, it will be maybe with offering them to sign up for your freebie here and there, or maybe take a course, or maybe hire you or something else, whichever your funnel is. So the traditional marketing still has a lot of importance. We need to understand it, but it's just we need to have a very, very good idea on how we're using this for our consistency.
Yes. Yeah. And I love how, talking about when we're talking abundance and the frequency that emits that's when we start attracting those ideal clients. And I love that you said that for you as a projector, when you are not in that state of creativity, really in that creative flow, is for you, if you started just pushing out content because I put this in quotes, because you should, or you think you should, that's going to send a different energy, and it's actually probably going to repel people. So I love that, for people listening, it's when you start working with yourself and your energy, it doesn't necessarily matter of I have to post 7 days per week. It's no, what is the energy that's behind the post? That's going to be so much more important. And I would love to hear, because I love hearing everyone's journey of how you got to where you are today. How did you find your zone of genius? Tell us a little bit about maybe, because I know everyone always wants to know, what were the results? What did you start seeing or noticing when you started working with your human design?
Awesome. Because I was just thinking, if I have to tell you the whole story of how I started, I have to go into 1996 and how I bought my first computer and that modem that kids don't know this these days, but it used to make music and it used to take a whole minute to get online, and how it blew my mind to think how we're all connected. I don't need to be focusing on these people around me who may not be my people, but I can go, large and there will be my people there. And of course they are. So this is an interesting, I mentioned already that I was a specialist in Facebook marketing, and I full-heartedly dove into this. I taught it, and I was successful enough with that as long as visibility went in. So when we're discussing consistency, good content, a powerful sort of presence online, I had clients, I had business. I'm the only sole provider in my family for a decade. So it still was bringing money into my business, but there was no fulfillment. And I was really struggling with promoting my own programs that I was creating based on what I've learned and what I was doing, because I didn't feel like it was even working that well for me. Mm-hmm. And it felt out of alignment and out of integrity to continue selling it to other people when they work 60%. That's not good enough. Why are they not working 100% for everyone? That was my big question. And so when I came across human design, and it was in sometime just before the pandemic, 2020, it was for my own personal development first, and it really blew my mind because it started explaining so many things. And I used the phrase that I hear people using when they talk about human design. It's like permission to be you. Permission to be you. So I read a lot, and it was really all, as I said, all just about myself. And fast forward then 2 years, and I decided to start using human design for my own business and my marketing, because I was very burnt out. I was burnt out by working with a couple of coaches who were completely different energy type to me. They were manifesting generators, and it's like an opposite to a projector. And their strategy is also completely different, and their energy levels are completely different. They can handle so many simultaneous things at once. They are very, very powerful energetically. people. And so when what works for them, and it feels easy for them, and they're sort of like, yeah, but you can go and do this, and you can do this, and you can do this. But for me, it was so overwhelming. And it not only didn't bring results, I actually felt so paralyzed that I couldn't even start doing things. Yeah. And I know a lot of people out there, and I'm honest saying that so many people out there hold themselves back, not even trying, because it's just overwhelming to even think about how much they have to do.
Yeah, that
sometimes they think it's too much. Yes. Yep. And I know so many people, and sometimes they overthink themselves that they have to do too much. Maybe they don't need to do that much, but it also doesn't help when they're not aware who they are following, because we can love these people. Like, I love manifesting generators. I just love them, but I can't do what they're doing. And this was a big advantage for me to learn, that I can't do what they're doing. So what can I do? And that's when I started thinking about a projector and the waiting for the invitation, and what is the waiting is, and how can you actively wait? Because waiting is not a passive process for anyone. You need to wait for to respond, but it's not an act. It's not a passive process. We can still, while we're waiting, we can focus on things that we love doing or researching, and we can focus on things that light us up. And visibility is such an important part for not just projectors. For projectors, it's crucial. For projectors, reflectors, manifestors, it's crucial that they're seen. But it's for everyone, because we all, even if you're not a projector, you might have a lot of projector type kind of energies and channels that you still need to be seen and recognized before you're going to be listened to, before people pay attention, right? So one of the steps for me in my journey was to really focus on expressing myself. I have already intuitively been doing that, and my decision making is splenic. That means that I am super intuitive, and my body just knows what's right for me, what's wrong in the moment. So I can't be thinking about it, because then the mind comes in and starts, interfering. I need to act on my impulses. And so I knew that, for example, I need to pursue, maybe contribute to large online publications, because that felt like a good center stage. Did that bring a lot of clients into my business? No, it didn't. But what it did, it positioned me as an authority. And actually also back in 2021, it gave me a center stage to speak about, for example, human design in Entrepreneur, which is it's a huge online publication. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the first ones to talk about human design, in that there was only one article that wasn't directly about human design. So this is about positioning. This is about being a thought leader. A thought leader, for me, a 1-3 profile is just, that's your brand personality, literally. Show up, share what's in your head, share what comes to you through your research, through your insights. That's what you do, and that's what's very attractive. So what it did then, it's just contributed to how people perceived me. I focused hugely on writing, especially about human design, in a way how I see things, without trying to teach. Because for a 1-3 person, for line one, it's not about teaching. It's not about how-tos. It's really about what I see and my personal perspective. So one of my articles that I wrote about line 5 people, actually, who I love, and they're very misunderstood. So I wrote this article and it started ranking. And it started ranking in Google, so much so that I started attracting so many people with line 5 in their profile. And because of the traditional part, right, the funnels, I had the funnel on my website. I knew how to monetize the blog. What is the next step? I was very clear. What is the next step after somebody reads something and they get excited? They can get a report, 50 pages report with all the important things covered. And this helped me monetize these people who were finding me on Google. So they didn't just come in, read, and then, got excited, and 5 minutes later they forgot who I was. Or they joined my list and then excitement goes. And so then they forgot who I was. They went straight and took action. And then after that, I was able to then invite them into working with me privately or join my group programs. So that's where the traditional marketing and the funnels comes in. But it really changed my business, because if I look at my Trello board where I put everyone who I work with, and do these reports, and I mark, where I find them. And what the biggest discovery for me was that it wasn't Facebook, where I was a specialist at, that attracts me the most correct, ideal clients. I literally don't attract people who are not aligned with me. Every call I have with clients in the last year and a half is fantastic. Not everyone becomes my private client after that, and that's okay. That's just natural. Yeah. But it's the quality of people that you attract when you start expressing yourself. So when that article started ranking, I made sure that every time I'm really excited about something within human design and marketing, I will write about it. I wrote an article about projectors and generators, because everywhere in human design, they say projectors and generators, ideal match. And you know what? Not so much. Not so much, because there's also buts, and there's also such thing as projector slavery, is when your generator friend doesn't understand that you're exhausted and you're too polite to say, I don't want to hang out and leave me alone. And they're just like, it's terrible thing. And because I was so affected by this, I wrote this article. And again, this article attracts clients now because they find that they're seen. Something in that article, my perspective, my unique insight, made them feel like they're seen. And okay, I'm talking about myself a lot. It's a 1-3 profile. That's the way I'm showing up. So leaning into that brand voice, that human design sort of like shone the light on this, and giving permission to, against everything that they say, against the 40 points, ideal client avatar, know your demographics. Now I know my demographics, because I see where they find me. I see what they want to know, so I can give them more. So maybe I can start thinking, okay, what are the popular profiles out there that I really like, or lines, or some other, I can write about that. When I do it from the heart and in the moment that I'm really lit up, they're powerful pieces of content. Mm-hmm. When I just write it just so I attract more clients, they're just like noise, nothing happens. Yeah. That's what I've learned. And this is what's bringing results now. So my husband, I mentioned, was very sick. From the first day of 2023, he got very, very sick. And within 2 months, he passed away. Oh, he had brain cancer. It was an awful, awful time, obviously, but it was also a very unpredictable time. I literally couldn't do anything creative in my business. I was in a survival mode. Yeah. And this year is the best year in my business because of the systems and what I've created when I was in the past, in my zone, creating all this stuff. It was still working. It was still there. So it's about online visibility that's set up to be smart, not hard, not hustling. It's very passive. You can step back. They always say create systems so you can step back. But sometimes the systems that we're offered, they're wrong systems. We need to find what works for you and do more of that and just disregard the rest. You will not miss out. And that's what happened. That's my story.
That is so powerful. And I know, like, even just me listening to it, like, I have goosebumps from that, because and I think when we see, especially just women who have embodied who they are and claimed who they are, and we see that and we get into that energy, there's shifts that happen within us of like, I'm even just sitting here going like, I could go and realign some of my marketing and strategy. And like, I feel like my head is full of ideas. So thank you for sharing your story.
I also have to say that it was really scary. So the first at least 6 months, I would say 9 months before I started really seeing the evidence, and my mind didn't want to believe the evidence. It was still so scared to be slowing down. And I was saying, oh my God, I'm too laid back. I need to do more. And then I was pulling myself back saying, no, you don't need to do more. You need to trust this. This is where you feel it when you're writing. You feel it when you do talks or summits or something. This is what works for me. Always have, even before I discovered human design, I always knew that I attract people when I speak or write. And so, by doing more of that and not doing launches, I might do a launch now and I might be very, very successful. And that's okay, because I'm not going to rely on it as the main way. But for some people, launches are so successful because that's the way when they're showing up, they're just activating everything in their energy field, and they're so magnetic. Wonderful. So it's about trusting and knowing it's going to be scary, because we're too conditioned to think differently, and the fear of missing out is huge, and fear of making a mistake is huge. And it was very scary. It's much easier, a year and a half later, look back and say, hey, people just find me on Google. But it was something that required psychologically, like, being strong.
Oh, thank you for normalizing that, because I think there's this misconception of like, okay, I'm going to make this change and then I'm going to see instant results. And our brain looks for that evidence of like, oh, well, see, you tried it and it didn't work. And you're absolutely right. The trust and the surrender that sometimes has to happen when you're like, I know this is it. And now I have to give it time.
But that's what maturity
one of the hardest
is.
parts.
Exactly. That's what soul maturity is to accept, surrender to something that is not easy, take responsibility and try and be strong when it's not easy, you know, and we're doing this as eclipse season happening during this time of this summit as well, or just past. But this is the time to do that. This is the time. And it's not an easy process. And it's super scary. It's trippy. But that's what lifetime journey is. So, you know, it's about being exactly normalized and be realistic. Don't I know we tend to have our heads in the cloud and have this, you know, rosy picture. That's not what life is about. So how can we make it beautiful with the, you know, the fear and this kind of, how would I say, insecurity about, you know, is it going to work or not? Trust is a huge skill, but it's possible to build it sometimes. It's like a muscle, you know, if you practice, it gets stronger. If you don't, it gets weaker.
Yeah. And I read this the other day that has stuck with me, is that our soul calling requires courage, but courage can't exist without fear. And that has like just so resonated with me, is what we are called, our mission is bigger than what we can even imagine. And that takes courage, and that takes courage sometimes in the face of a lot of fear. So I know we could talk forever, but I do have a last question for you that I'm dying to ask is, and before we talk about the special offer that you have for everyone, is how can human design help someone discover their brand voice? Like, what would be the big takeaway if you could tell someone, like, here's the one, maybe 2 action steps that they could go take today with human design?
Okay, it's an interesting question, but there's no short answer to that. So if you want to take an action step today and learn about your brand voice, then take the free mini course that I'm going to be talking about in 5 minutes, because it's actually it goes through the 5 energy types with the practical, actionable advice on how you can use that straight away in your marketing and in your systems, you know, where you need to realign something, or, you know, what are things that are for you and what are things that are definitely 100% not for you. And then the brand voice is really in your profile lines. And when you dive a little bit deeper, and as I said, you don't need to know everything, all the, you know, on the chart, it looks so scary. There's so many numbers and so many lines and everything. You don't need to know all that. You literally don't. But if you know your type, you know what the strategy is for this type, you know how to make decisions. And then you have the profile. The profile is the brand voice. This is what I was describing when I was talking about my profile. My first line is 1. Yours is exactly the same. So line 1 is about, you know, knowing the essence, getting the grasp on things. We are very trustworthy because through all that research, we actually get to the bottom of things that matter. And we could spend so much time researching. I remember when we got our dog and I was researching about that particular breed because somehow we didn't research before we got the dog. And my husband said, you could have been there for 3 hours is okay. Why are you here 3 weeks still looking for articles about this particular breed? And I needed it. And you know what? It took me 11 months to get one article in one sentence in that article clicked. And that's the kind of process, right? So through that process, we get to the bottom line. In the brand voice, it gives you the confidence that actually when you speak about something that you do know, that you have research, that you do have so much passion for, even if it's just a niche, you don't need to know everything within your area of expertise. For line 1, it's not important, but it's important that you get this important one part, right? And there you see what's fluff and what matters. So as a line 1, you can be trusted because you can see what matters and what doesn't matter, what's essential and what's non-essential. And, you know, every line has their own, this not, I don't want to use the word gift, but it's kind of their thing, right? So when you understand this thing about you, and sometimes it can be quite complicated because, for example, line 2, if you have a line 2, maybe you're 2-4 and 2-5, the profile will add a different flavor. So it's good to go and dive a little bit deeper into that. And that's what I do with clients in my business, but actually still understanding line 2, for example, they're hermits. They just like doing their own thing. They like to be left alone. They're not someone who wants to go and send 50 friend requests. And, they don't have that energy even. Sometimes I was working with a lady who is 2-4 and she said to me, I sent 50 friend requests every day for like 2 weeks and nobody is accepting them. And that's, it just shows it's just a wrong activity to do. So line 2, they just need to be doing their thing and find the way to demonstrate this, find the way to show people. Sometimes you can't show, maybe like a dancer, you're dancing and your eyes are closed and people are looking at you mesmerized because you're so amazing it's a very body kind of energy. But sometimes you can't show people. Maybe you're a coach, you can describe. Just describe the way you're thinking. You don't need to teach them. You don't need to give value. You are already value. Like that dancer. The dancer is not coming up, pulling people, like it's not necessarily interactive. Imagine that kind of act and how mesmerizing it can be. You are that's your power. So how can you create visibility around, doing or demonstrating, or behind the scenes, or, that people can see or understand the way you're thinking? But you're literally just telling this is how I think. This is what's going on through my head, and that is so magnetic because you have there is a natural talent in line 2 that is amazing, that other people are, all their lives they will be trying to learn how to do this and they're still not doing it as well as line 2 person who just overnight seemed to be just discovered this gift in them. So that's, it's about understanding what is the mechanics of your energy, and then thinking about marketing strategy around it, thinking about the brand voice around this. So as if you're a hermit that is just there, demonstrate what you do. Don't worry about how people will find you. Trust me, when you're pouring your creativity into, say if you're an introspective person, if you're pouring your creativity into that introspection, people will find you because you're producing this frequency that calls them in, literally. It's none of your business how they find you, basically. Just stop worrying about things that don't matter to you. That's the hardest part though, guys. This is the hardest part because we're always thinking, or we think we need something that actually is misaligned with us. This is what I've noticed, so it's about this, again, this awareness. So take that mini course because that's something that will give you so much practical advice, and you will have your chart. There's a link to do your own chart, and you will be able to follow that and just take what you need, because you don't need all the little things. You only need to understand 2-3 things, as I mentioned: strategy, authority, your profile, and your business can transform. Nothing else I've changed in my business based on my human design except for, these 3 parameters, and it's changed my life completely.
Yeah. So I know I took your mini course and it was just, oh my gosh, it was so amazing. So for anyone who's listening, definitely there will be a link and you can go and watch the Human Design for Client Attraction mini course. Highly recommend for anyone, especially if you're new to human design, even if you've been dabbling in your own human design. Like, I still took away so many great nuggets and takeaways from this. So definitely go check that out. And this was such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Juliette. And tell people how can they find you, for those that are like, yes, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. How can they also work with you?
Well, it's very simple. Just go to juliettestapleton.com, have a look at the blog section. The free mini courses is there. I think I called it Human Design for Aligned Visibility, but you know what? That's another thing that I've learned with human design. I just pivot anytime I want. And so it's not a tattoo when you make a name. So it could be called whatever it's called. Take it. It's good. And if you're really, really hell yes, after you've taken this, take the mini course first, because you will get a sense sense. I know you've listened to me for an hour now, but you will get a more sense of me and my style, right? If that's something that you really like, I highly recommend ordering Marketing Blueprint by Design. So what it is a report. Sometimes it's 40 and sometimes it's 50 pages of dense text where I go very deep into your energy type, into your authority to make decisions, and especially into your brand voice. We also cover some things like selling by design, and they're less important in terms of realigning your business, but they're great for your content, just like bounce off ideas, what you can talk about, because you do naturally have these energies, and how to set up the more aligned environment for you to work, because that's also very, very important and can be, slowing down or paralyzing you even. So all those things are in the report, and that could be the next step. And then if you loved the report, meet me on Zoom call. It's definitely a great investment. Then we can take it from there. But that's something that I recommend. I think that you will love if you are still listening, you will love the mini course. Yeah. So I hope to see you there.
Yeah. And I highly recommend for everyone, go check out Juliette's website, because if you want to see someone who's like on brand and to like fully empowered, oh my gosh, I fell in love with your website. I was like, this is just like, I could just like immediately, like, I know exactly who you are. I know what you talk about. I know like your mission. I know your values. It was when you just see it and you're like, I know exactly what this is.
I love this.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this feedback. I actually don't have a defined identity center in my chart, which means I don't know who I am, a chameleon. And I love this kind of feedback because, this is all about leaning into your brand voice as a thought leader, and then sprinkle some beautiful visuals. And, and when you understand about the shiny cover, the first impressions, they're so important. This is so empowering. Then you get these mechanics, you learn a little bit about your design, you put it together. There's no wrong. There's just play. That kind of feedback. It's just amazing. You made my day.
Oh, well, again, thank you so much for being here. I know I took away so many things from this conversation, and I know our listeners did too. So again, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge. And please, for everyone, go check out her website and definitely check out the mini course.